On a very spicy edition of the Infinite Loop Show.
We find out what's taking iOS so damn long,
What's T-Mobile up to?
how you can get your very own tiny app store,
And a whole bag of apps that we thought you should download immediately.
all that and more on this all-new episode of the Infinite Loop Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Infinite Loop Show, episode number 55. I am Michael Gaines.
And I'm Kacey Coughlin.
We're back.
Hey!
We took a little break. You know,
Un poco.
real world.
Yeah,
Things
things
happen.
happen.
Things happen.
We're people too.
I know.
We bleed red when you cut us.
I don't know. I bleed apple. What about you?
Red apples.
Red
What are they?
apples.
Granny Smith? Yeah.
No, but we're back. We're back. And sorry for the little 3-week delay, but we're fine. Casey's got a new place.
Ta-da!
So now
All
you're
my Apple things on the wall.
again, they're back.
Yeah, that happens.
And move for the people that are watching, move over a little bit and tell everybody about that screensaver you've got running.
So I was looking for a good screensaver for the iMac in the background, which is pretty much taking over by my huge head. But in any case, this is a free Mac application that I found. It's the Star Trek L-Cars interface. And you can hear it making noises and everything. Realistically.
That's pretty impressive, I must say.
I got it from Mac Update. If you're running anything beyond Snow Leopard, you'll want the 2.3 edition as Matt.
Yeah.
Mike
So
found it.
we had this problem just before, but we'll talk about this real quick before we get into the news. Casey says, "Oh, I've got this great screensaver." Me being a Star Trek guy, I do a Star Trek podcast. I was like, I must have it. And then I realized that I had looked at this once before.
Yeah, how did
and it
I
didn't
find
work.
this before you?
Well, no, because when I went to the website, I typed it in Google, and the link for the site was light purple, which means that I had been there already. I'm like, what was it about this? So I downloaded the thing, and then I unpacked it, and sure enough, now I remembered why I didn't use it. Turns out that on the website is the old 2.2.1 version, which does not run on Intel machines. It does not work on Mountain Lion. So Casey's like, "There's something wrong with you, dumbass." No,
It's
it turns
a mini
out.
Stump a Trek nerd, right?
Yeah, right. It turns out that the website has the old version. You have to go to Mac Update to get the new version. Why the new version is not on the homepage, I don't know. But that's where the confusion was, and so now I've got the new version. New version is 2.3. What's the name of it again? It's
System 47.
System 47. So you can get System 47 at macupdate.com, and it's a pretty
And
badass
enjoy.
screensaver. And enjoy. Yes. I'm a little out of practice here. Hello, how are you? So,
Hi.
all right, let's get to the news. All right, iOS 7 is delayed.
No!
Oh no! What is going to happen? Okay, we sort of expected this because there has been a shakeup between iOS 6 and iOS 7. Is that the what was it? What was it? What's that long word that they use for
Skeuomorphism.
Skeuomorph? Thank you. God, you're
I
smarter
just
than
wrote
me.
a 10-page paper on it.
Oh, did you? Well,
Yeah,
that'll do
one
it.
of my finals, I did a 10-page paper on skeuomorphism.
Did
And I
you?
got an A.
Oh, well, good. Can you send it to me? Because I'd like to read it.
Okay.
Okay. So iOS 7 is getting rid of that. And I don't know what we're going to have. There have been rumors, but
Yeah.
I don't
now
like-
that Johnny Ive is head of both software and hardware design, apparently he's getting rid of the skeuomorphism that Steve and Scott Forstall were such big fans of, and much to the joy of many fans and Apple developers within Apple. Yeah, it looks like they're getting a huge system-wide interface makeover that, I don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like, but apparently it's not going to be so skeuomorphic. So not that leather stitching, you know, on the side of notes and iCal and the little torn off
game.
pages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
gone.
I understood the point of that. You have this written display. What's the best way to show it off? You have some sort of real world look to it. I got that. Maybe in practice it just didn't work.
Well, there's definitely a place for skeuomorphism.
Sure.
And that place was about 10 or 20 years ago.
Why do you say
so
that?
Much anymore.
Because 10 or 20 years ago, we didn't really have the graphics to support that kind of thing.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, but when you're kind of transitioning from the analog version to the digital version to help people make that transition, it makes sense to have that skeuomorphism.
Yeah.
That's why folders look like folders. The desktop, kind of looks like a desktop.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But now we're kind of entering into an age where kids nowadays that are, growing up with this stuff, they're probably would, if you told them a folder, they would probably think of the digital version before the actual hard version first, where it doesn't, like the hard version of a folder isn't the translation of the digital version, but it's actually like reversed now, I would imagine, for today's generation.
I see. I was thinking more along the lines of texture, not so much the icons. So you're right. You're right. People are getting pulled off of the 10.9 release to get 10.7 out. So it shows where the priorities are there.
Well, yeah, with all the complaints of, iOS 6 and iPhone 5, that makes sense. The Mac desktop can probably skate for a little bit,
sure,
but I think the iPhone is obviously a much bigger priority, and it really should be.
Yeah, Apple has been getting their butt beaten in the press by Android, and not so much by Windows Phone, but Apple really is taking a hit with some of the things that they're not supporting. So I think that it's time for iOS to rise to the top like they should.
Yeah.
So, and I'll get to Android in a minute because now I'm finally doing some Android programming, so I have some insight. Oh. Yeah, now I can't be talking out of my ass. Now I know exactly what goes on.
Now you know things?
Now I know things. Oh, man, and it's not pretty. T-Mobile is taking pre-orders for the iPhone 5 on April 12th. You watched the keynote. I didn't watch the keynote, or I don't know if it's a keynote, but you watched
they had an announcement last week or a week prior. They this big keynote with the CEO cussing up a storm. It was rather just insane, where they're just T-Mobile's really trying to create this upswell with how our wireless infrastructure in the U.S. works and how to really redo that whole thing. 'Cause, everybody knows it's screwed up. Like, we pay, as consumers, we pay a crazy amount, right? Yeah. And it's just the architecture and how all these plans work and how you can't move from one to the other. And, nobody really fully understands it unless you actually work in the industry.
Sure.
So T-Mobile CEO is really just trying to shake all that up and create this, uprising
by dropping F-bombs,
rebellion by just say, just going insane on stage. But part of that,
his F-bombs bring the boys to the
iPhone
yard.
5, and they're starting pre-orders April 12th.
Oh man! All right, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna keep watching. Anything he does is just
hilarious.
It's not quite Ballmer insane. Ballmer is just always going to be a source of comedy, but this guy is really trying to rise to that.
Nothing says "buy me" better than an F-bomb. Apparently not. There have been rumors. We talked about this previously. There have been rumors about the iRadio system that Apple is working on, and apparently within a week, the deal should be struck with the record companies, and so we're looking at a possible summer launch. I cannot wait for this. This is what I've been hoping for.
WWDC, maybe?
Maybe. In June? Yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting that. So, of course, now I don't know from an API point of view how people are going to deal with iRadio. I don't know if there's going to be the ability to connect to it directly as a developer. I don't know if this is going to be, what I'm saying is it going to be like a read-only service? Like you can only, I shouldn't even call it read-only, but Apple just sort of broadcast it through iTunes or something, or through iOS. And what do developers need to do with it? At this point, I can't see what people would need to write an app for to access iRadio.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't see what you would do with it. It sounds like just, I mean, like, how much do developers interface with the iTunes music store?
Not much, if at all. I don't know one app. I'm not saying it's not out there, but I don't know a single app that interacts with the iTunes store. Or I mean, for that matter, there are some apps that deal with your music library, but I don't know many apps that deal with like iTunes Match directly. So
right, yeah. So it sounds like it'll just be an Apple service that you can probably link to or send people to, but you're not going to be able to. And I don't know why you would need to, really.
Right. My point in this is that would they announce this during WWDC? If they were to, then that means
it would have some sort of developer.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
So it may just be wrapped up in iOS 7. They may have a separate announcement for this. We don't know. But it just seems to me like they could save a lot of time and space and money.
Yeah, this would just be, I think this will just be, if they don't do the iOS 7 announcement at WWDC, it'll probably be one of their tent poles for that announcement.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be in 2 months.
Yeah,
get my hands on iOS 7. I know, things. Facebook Home was announced yesterday. I laughed my ass off through this entire thing. I understand what Zuckerberg is trying to do. I get it. But I don't like the implementation of it. So essentially what it is Facebook grabbed Android, the operating system, and Zuck gets on stage. He's like, Facebook or Android is so open, we can do whatever we want with it. Do I sound like him?
Is that your Zuckerberg?
That's my Zuckerberg. Burp, burp, burp. So he gets on stage and he talks about how awesome it is. And essentially what they did was they brought Facebook front and center, which you can't do on iOS. I can understand why you don't want to do that on iOS, because looking at this, if I had an Android phone, because I use Facebook so infrequently that I don't care to bring it to the front. So for someone like me that casually uses Facebook once in a while to maybe keep in touch with some of my friends from high school and college, it doesn't do anything for me. Now, I understand there are some people out there that adore Facebook, love it, are addicted to it. I understand that. I have nothing against them. But for me, does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And so if Facebook Home was brought to iOS, I would think of it as an intrusion on my desktop. And the reason I say that is because there was a demo shown of somebody, I think they were like reading the newspaper, the Times or something like that. And this text message comes in. And on iOS, the top few pixels flip and it says, "You got a message from Kacey Coughlin." I'm like, "No, that's nice." No. And then it flips back. and it goes away. So it's like your little reminder that there's a text message for you from Kacey Coughlin. I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll check that later." What this does is that when you get a Facebook message, there's a circle that shows up and they call it chat heads. And they're very specific about this. 2 words, all lowercase. They're very specific about that. So this chat head shows up. It's a circle. And if another one comes in, then there's another circle and then another circle. And depending on how many different people send you Facebook messages. And you can drag them away to put them away for later. But I just find it very intrusive. And then on top of that, Facebook comes to the front so that, you know how people post pictures of like their kids or something like that. By the way, here's another thing
and that's
and their food. Something very, very unrealistic about this demo is that people were showing pictures of like, here's me on the beach, here's me with my friends at a park. No, my friends don't post crap like that. Here's a picture of my kid. Here's a picture of my dog. Here's a picture of my half-eaten pizza. Here's a picture of my dirty car. Here's a picture of my kid. No. And so what they do is they use a sort of Ken Burns effect, sort of, but the picture slides to the left a little bit. And then the next one shows up and it slides to the next one. And I'm like, that would drive me batty. After a while, it's like, I just want the picture
notification or
no, the
if you have
whole screen. So if this is your screen, I'm showing it to the camera. If this is your screen, your entire screen becomes like a Facebook screensaver. So it's a picture, maybe the latest picture from the person, and then the person's face in a little circle, a chat head on the bottom. And the picture just moves to the side a little bit, and it's not for me. I don't care about Facebook enough. Now the reason I'm talking about this is because somebody asked Zuck, what would it take to bring this to iOS? And he said that they would need to have a lot. They would need to have some sort of partnership with Apple. What that means, I don't think that's going to happen.
Because that's an overlay. If it's going to be
exactly.
Like a Verizon or like HTC type overlay on the phone, Apple would never allow that. And you know what? Hey, Facebook, we created this notification center that's perfect for you. You can integrate with that, and it's doing exactly what you're trying to do. So you can just put your notifications in the center like we have, and that's it. You're not going to get some special overlay on top of the OS.
Right. Because and this is where you get into the arguments between open versus walled garden. I don't like...
Well, if that's open, if open means that any company or developer or manufacturer can just get complete and total overlay access on top of my OS, well then screw that. That sucks.
Well, there was another interview that I read with Zuck where somebody said, did you talk to Android about this? And he said, we don't know what Google is going to... Oh, no, we don't know what kind of reaction Google is going to have towards this.
Yeah, we're just throwing out a lot of cool-looking concepts, but nobody really wants it, so it's probably never going to happen.
That's the problem with this whole open architecture, is that somebody can come along, completely screw around with it, and say, well, this is the way we're going to do it, and if you don't like it, that's just too bad. And that's one thing. I know people use the word iSheep, and I freaking hate that. But I like the fact that everything is homogeneous. It's like, this is our notification center. You don't like it? Go somewhere else. I like the fact that every app has to do things a certain way. Not so fond about the whole payment system. That's a whole different issue because I have some issues with that, which I can't talk about. But I like the fact that every app has to behave a certain way to an extent. Would I like animated wallpapers? Yes. Would I like the weather to show up on my desktop? Yes. There are some things that I don't like about the system, but in my opinion, the pros of iOS outweigh the cons, and that's why I don't like Android, and I'll just never ever use it.
No. If every app you downloaded like reinvented the wheel, people would get very confused and sick of that really fast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and on top of that, then you start getting into the whole Windows thing. You use Windows just as long as I have. You remember how I still do too. I got my gaming machine here. But you know what I mean is that when Windows 95 first came out, all the developers were doing their own thing. And that was the biggest problem, is that there was no consistency from app to app. Yeah, you had some people that followed some sort of guidelines, but then you had this one guy's like, I'm going to make an app and I'm going to make 8 million buttons. Forget menus. I don't want to use menus. I'm going to have 800 buttons on the side. And these are the kinds of problems that we saw with Windows apps, and now we're starting to see that with Android. So I'm not a big fan. Which is ironic, because Windows phones have their own guidelines and people have to follow them. The funny thing is that Zuck was getting up, and this irked me a little bit. It got under my skin just a little bit. Is that Zuck gets up there on stage and he's like, well, mobile devices have to be people-centric. I'm like, Windows Phone, WP8, that's very people-centric.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're completely ignoring the fact that Windows Phone 8 exists, and they say, we've got the system and we're putting it on Android, and
no, the phone and OS manufacturers don't get it. Facebook gets it, and thank God they've come along to help us with this mobile OS dilemma.
I just wonder sometimes, and again, maybe this is because I just don't use Facebook very often, but I think that that Facebook is putting all their eggs in this their own basket, if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Where they think so big of themselves. Yeah, they're popular. Sure, everyone and their mother is on it. But then you've got some people like me that don't use it very often. Then you've got some people in tech that are removing themselves off of Facebook altogether. I'm going,
yeah.
You're betting the farm on yourself. And somebody can come along, like, look what happened to MySpace. Look what happened to MySpace. Facebook comes along and completely destroys MySpace. How do we know that somebody isn't going to come along in 2 years and destroy Facebook?
We don't. But, that's not... Facebook... It seems like Facebook sees themselves and is trying to make themselves the new AOL, where you just live inside of Facebook, and everything you do is within Facebook. You browse, you search, you chat... You just open up Facebook and you never leave it.
Yeah.
Of course, there are people, outliers, who don't do that. But like you said, the techie people who are, getting off of Facebook and entirely abandoning Facebook, that I think is still such a small percentage of the people who really use Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
That Mark Zuckerberg doesn't care about those people.
Yeah, I agree.
They're gearing towards the majority of people who still, all their friends and a lot of young people are starting to use like Facebook Messenger, like the new AOL IM. That's
my kids don't. My kids use? They use Kik, I think it's called. It's some sort of group messaging system because not everybody has iChat. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't use. In fact, a lot of my kids' friends are not on Facebook, and they're teenagers and they're not on Facebook. They used to be, and they got sick of it.
That's weird. My my sister, my brother, they're on it, and it just seems like a lot of people younger than me are on it more. And people like around my generation, where it's almost become trendy to get off of Facebook entirely.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like the thing now. Facebook has become so popular that it's become trendy to get off of it.
Well, it's become, I think, because it's popular with old people now. Your grandma, your aunts and uncles are on there. And so why would you want to hang out on there and post pictures of parties and stupid shit you're doing with your friends if grandma's gonna see it? You need to go somewhere else now because grandma's on Facebook.
That's why I have absolutely no family friended on Facebook. I just won't do it because Facebook
has become the place where just all my family is, and then Google Plus is like the place where some of my friends, but mostly internet people, are on there, and then Twitter is just kind of like an in-between.
Yeah. All right, we've talked about Facebook enough.
Yeah.
I think. I didn't realize it was going to go that long, but okay. There's a new OS X Trojan that injects ads into pages. Well, what is it with these damn Trojans? Did you read about this?
No, but it just kind of, goes to show how much more popular and how much more market share OS X has nowadays than before. Well, we're seeing Trojans and viruses like this all the time now.
Yeah. The problem, all right, Max Sources just said it in the chat room, which I was getting to. It's called trojan.yonto, YONTO.1. And yes, you have to install it. You have to be tricked into installing it.
Oh, Trixie Hop, it says.
I know that now. Was there an update for? No, it was. I think it was the previous one. But there's an article here on the Next Web, and they're showing what the Yonto virus looks like. There's this thing that comes up and says "free twit tube." I don't even know what that is. And
does it
so
install like 10 toolbars?
No, that's Windows. Yeah. So if anything ever comes up that asks you to install like a video codec, don't do it. You don't need it. You don't need video codecs nowadays. Yeah. This isn't 2004. So if it remember those days, it's like you had to install like different codecs for different things. Oh, Blink, or was it Bink? Blink, one of them. I think Bink was one of them where you had to. That was one of them. But people would come up with these videos and they would say, "Oh, you can't see the video? Well, that's because you need this codec." And now everything is MP4 or QuickTime or Flash, so you don't really need that anymore. So those days.
This is funny. Like, I've seen Yontu a ton on Windows.
Oh, have you?
It's just one of those annoying things that installs a bunch of toolbars and runs in the background and coupon application crap, and everything. But yeah, so I guess it's the same kind of thing, only for Mac now.
Yeah. All right, you take over this next one. This one's all you, because you love this.
Yes. So, every year, ThinkGeek has fantastic little toys and products that they put out for April Fools. Some of them actually turn into real things. Some of them are just kind of jokes, but they're all fully fleshed out product pages that look very, very real, with reviews and everything.
And videos.
You really don't even know that it's fake until you try to add it to your cart. This year's, which I thought, they had tons of good ones this year, but one of the best I thought was the PlayMOBIL Apple Store Playset. For $179, you got PlayMOBIL's kind of that, it looks like a Lego kind of set, but with people. So there's an Apple Store playset, like kind of Lego dollhouse type playset, with the optional line set, which I loved. Mm-hmm. So you get this optional accessory set, I think, for an additional cost, where it's just people in a line.
And they're standing in a line.
Just to put outside your Apple Store, for realism. Oh, and the best part of this line pack, the first person in line is a heavier gentleman with a snowy beard on a Segway.
Yeah, I wonder who that is supposed to be.
I don't know who's I don't know who that would be at the front of the line. Know. That's weird. But yeah, very, very good. I would like to see this be a real thing. Yeah.
Quicksilver, which has been around forever. God, as long as I can remember, on Mac OS 10, finally got out of beta and has been 1.0.
I didn't realize it was still in beta.
I didn't either. I haven't used it in a long time. I used it years ago. And I saw this article on Ars Technica that says that they finally came out of beta.
Congrats. All those years of development. I'm sure it's
Quicksilver
paid off.
Yeah, Quicksilver is an app launcher, which I used. There was a time when I was using it a lot, and I forgot why I stopped using it. I don't know if it was because I switched
Spotlight.
No, not so much Spotlight. I think what happens is that when I switch operating systems, is that sometimes
you don't install everything.
Yeah, I don't install. I say, do I really need this? Nah, I'll see how I can go along without it. So I haven't used it in a very long time, but.
I used to use this too, and then I used Alfred for a little bit, but really I tend to use Spotlight more for anything because it seems to be faster for me, to just hit Command Space, start typing. It's usually the first hit, whatever I want, hit Enter, and it does the trick better than
there was another app that was similar to this, and I think it was for OS 9. Where you can create little groups of apps. It was not Quicksilver, but it was a different one. It was a different
10.9 or System
9. System 9.
I really have no idea.
No, I don't remember the name of it, but there was something like that I used also. I can't remember what it was. It was like a launcher. Remember the control bar, the control panel bar in the lower left-hand corner of System 8 and System 9? Mm-hmm. Where you can put things in there. It was similar to that, but
Vaguely.
you can make boxes and groups and things like that. I don't remember the name of that app, but it wasn't Quicksilver. It was very similar to it. real quick, I hope this is quick. I'm just going to mention this real quick. I have been doing some Android development for work because we're taking one of the apps that I wrote for iOS and we're porting it to Android. And I think the best way that I can describe the entire process is words that I found in a blog about Android development. It says, "You will hate it like the heat of a million burning suns."
If that doesn't entice developers,
it's terrible. It's all right. It's what it is you get an appreciation for how elegant it is to write an app under OS 10. Mm-hmm. I've been a Mac developer for maybe 20 years now. So I went all the way back to like ThinkC and Mac App and Mac App. I get shivers from that. But Xcode it's got its issues. It does. But the issues that it has are very small compared to when you start running Eclipse. And Eclipse, which is the IDE for Android, is just this hideous Windows
Eclipse
95
is an open
thing.
IDE for a lot of things. I had to use that for Java when I was doing Java programming, and Google App Engine kind of uses it, and you can use it for Python. A lot of developers use it since it's open to almost any programming language, and especially OP programming languages. But like a lot of open stuff, especially open stuff that is made to kind of encompass a lot of things. Mm-hmm. It's ugly, and it's full of things.
It's full
and
of
it's
things.
It's like instead of when I was doing a lot of Java programming and I started out in that, I ended up switching to just doing VI in Terminal, and that was
it's that bad.
That was easier.
You're BB at it. Well, I'm doing my Android development on the Mac, and I have to say, at least you can do that. It's not like you have to use Windows or something like that to do it. So you can download. So when you download the Android development package, you think you have everything, but you don't. You don't have a lot of the SDKs for the previous versions of Android. So what you have to do is you have to go to the command line and you have to type in, I think it's Android /Android SDK in the right folder, and then it brings up this window and then you tell it which SDKs you want to download. So of course I download all of them because I want to make sure that I support everything, and it downloads all the packages and stuff, and it takes forever. So there's that. One thing that irks me a lot about Android programming is that I think we've gotten to a point in this century where we don't have, even though we use XML files, we shouldn't have to edit them directly. And that's one thing about Xcode is that I have found that what you can sit there and you can type all day, and all you have to do is make one typo and it'll just create a whole bunch of problems. And so you can type like Android, AND, you can swap two letters in something and it'll compile, but it'll be all wrong. And Xcode hides that from the user. You can edit the XML file. I have done that once. I only had to do that once. But the XML file is there, and Xcode allows you to do it if you want to. But Android, or I should say Eclipse, puts that front and center and says, oh, you want to do that? Yeah, there is a graphical editor, but they put more emphasis on editing the XML file directly, and that irks me because that's what I was doing 20 years ago. I shouldn't have to do that anymore. It's just something that I think that the Android development really needs to sort of upgrade into the 21st century, because I feel like I'm working in like Visual Studio 2 or something.
Honestly, that's pretty much like how development and programming is still for everything else outside of Mac programming.
And it's not like that in Visual Studio, though. I did a lot of Windows programming.
Well, Visual Studio is a lot like Xcode, where it gives you this, interface, like Dreamweaver for web programming and stuff like that, where you have a big GUI interface to like help you through and have shortcuts and hints and everything. But a lot of stuff like Google App Engine is, oh my God, if you really want to like shoot yourself in the foot and just pull out your hair all day long, that is horrible. But a lot of like Linux and Python and Pi programming,
But that's
It's
different.
all
I can
very
see
much
that.
like that, where there's no GUI to help you through, and there's nothing obscuring, parts of the code.
No.
It's all there laid out in front of you, and it's all pretty much the same as it was 10 years ago.
No, but I wouldn't expect that for something like Raspberry Pi or that. I would expect to be able to use BB Edit and then do my or even VI or Emacs or something and do my editing in a terminal window. That I expect.
Yeah,
But
Emacs,
for
yeah.
something modern like Android, I would expect it to be a little better. I would
No,
expect it.
it's still Linux.
Yeah, I know it's Linux and Java. You know why I never used Java or never really learned Java? I bought a book on Java when it first came out, and everybody said this is going to be revolutionary, and I went.
It just like crap. I forget there was something else that was like that where everybody kept saying, yeah, like 10 years ago, Java. Oh, everything's gonna go Java. It's great because it's cross-platform. It's totally open. Use Java. Everything Java, 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 and it kind of caught on to like a small extent, but it was really kind of surpassed by, Flash for a little bit, and now HTML5 and Ajax and jQuery. You can do, just about and Python really. You can do everything you need from the DOM to the front end without even worrying about Java.
So I just have I brought this up only because I have a bigger appreciation for Xcode and all the work that the Apple engineers have done. I went online and I did some searching for Android versus iOS development from people that were agnostic. And every single article that I read said iOS is better for a lot of reasons, because Android development is just such a mess. So,
yeah, I bet it's a lot like the Google App Engine development.
Probably, I wouldn't doubt it. And so, it's okay. I'm learning it. It's even so much learning Java. I mean, Java is very close to C++, so it's really not that alien to me. But Objective-C there was something about Objective-C also. People say, Objective-C is so nobody uses it. Well, you know what? Nobody might use it, but I felt that it was a very clean extension of C++ in the sense that I felt very comfortable with it when I first started using
nobody
it.
uses it unless you're a Mac or iOS developer, in which case it's all you use.
But there are some things that Apple has done to make development easier for the developer.
Well, yeah, because you don't write just in Objective-C, you write within their SDK. And so, it's not just that, it's their libraries on top of it. But
I just want to be clear that I'm not saying this because I hate Android. I'm saying this because as a developer, as somebody who's been developing like way back from the TRS-80 days and that, I found Android development to be a major step backwards compared to Visual Studio and Xcode.
And also, you hate Android.
Well, yeah, but but I'm looking at this from a professional point of view because I'm doing it for work, and I really feel
you
that
should do
what
to test this theory to the fullest is make a Windows 8 version.
I was actually thinking that, but I think in order to get a Windows 8 development kit, you have to pay like $200 or something, or some insane.
What happened to Microsoft paying out tens of thousands of dollars?
Oh, that's
for people
over.
Apps for?
That's over. That ended.
You didn't get it on the ground floor on that.
So to recap, Microsoft was making this sweet deal for people. You get like the Pro version of Windows 8 and a whole bunch of development stuff for like practically nothing. But it was over by the time I found out about it. I would have done that. I actually do want to try doing some Windows 8 programming.
Yeah, well, you probably have to do that all within Visual Studio, and
I know. What are you gonna do?
I hate Visual Studio.
I haven't used Visual Studio since Visual Studio 2010, I think, or 2011.
Oh, last time I used it was before that. I think it was like 08 or 09.
Visual Studio 6. All right, let's move on to rapid fire. Macworld iWorld conference has been moved, which I think makes a lot of sense. It was
Does it?
Yeah, well, it was in January and it overlapped with CES, so a lot of people in the tech field didn't like going to
that's
CES
true.
and dealing with that at the same time in two different states. So they're moving it to late March.
Yep. That's pretty late.
So that's pretty late. They said they didn't want it to overlap with CES and the Super Bowl, so they're putting it in March, and that makes a lot of sense.
True. And then maybe in a couple of years it'll be in June, and they can just pair up with WWDC. They'll just keep moving it up the calendar.
Yeah, I know, that would be funny, wouldn't it? Apple has denied an iPad Mini trademark. I can sort of understand why, because the iPad itself is trademarked by Apple. iPad Mini,
Yeah, it was too generic.
it's a little generic, but at the same time, why not just give it to Apple? Because who else is going to use it? That's what that's one part of it that I don't.
China's going to use it.
If Apple already has the iPad trademark, why not just give them iPad Mini? But nobody else can.
They're really only trademarking Mini, and that's generic. They need to prove that it's, I don't know, it's like Kleenex, that it's synonymous with small iPads.
Well, it's like all right, so there's Kleenex is a good example. If Kleenex came out with Kleenex Plus, whatever they use that has
Kleenex
the aloe
Mini.
in it. Kleenex Mini, would they be able to do that? I don't know. It would be interesting. I am not a lawyer, but I'm just looking at it from
we need
point of view.
tiny tissues.
SkyDrive for the Mac app, or SkyDrive app for the Mac is finally up.
Yay!
Do you use this at all?
No!
No, I don't either.
And this is really kind of dumb because guess what platform's not getting Office 2013? The Mac!
Yeah. You know what? I saw a tweet. I think it was from... I forgot who it was from. It was Paul Thoreau. I think he said that he was going to have some news about Office for the iPad.
Oh, yeah. There's strong rumors, and I think that's going to come out for iOS. But there's been talk and even, I think, confirmations that there's not going to be an Office 2013 for Mac, that they're killing it after 2010. So why give us SkyDrive? Like, that's dumb.
Well, because I think they want people to... because it's not just used for Office apps. People use it for files and things, so they want people to access it. But it's not going to surpass Dropbox.
No, it's not.
And
much like most Microsoft things, it's way late to this party.
What else is new? Amazon, similarly, Amazon's Cloud Drive file sync app is up for iOS.
Hey, another file drive server
this is important, I think, because there are some people, myself included, that were once going to use Cloud Drive for their podcasts. So I can see why people would want this. I personally don't need it. I found I use a different service now, but I can see why people would want that. MacSources says Dropbox runs off of Amazon. Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know
everything's running off their AC2 servers, so when those go down, sweet.
Okay. Reader. All right, well, let me back up a second. Google announced, I think while we were away, that
they're killing
Google Reader, and everybody was pissed off, myself included. But what came out of this are some native apps for different platforms, Windows, Mac, etc. And Reader was one of them. Now, I haven't used Reader in a long time. I haven't tried it in a long time. But, of course, because now I have to get a native application. I gave it a shot. I tried this and a different one, a web-based one. I really like Reader. And Reader
I use this one at work for our RSS. It's clean and nice, like most Mac apps.
Yeah, and it's free until Google Reader goes away. So grab it. It's a great app. You can get it for the Mac. You can get it for your iPad. And
yes, and it's spelled
REEDER. Reader, great app. Go get it. So that's it for Rapid Fire. Let's move to apps. You do yours first.
Okay, so I got a whole bunch, mainly for iOS, that I've been cruising the App Store. First up, we have Vigil, which I actually have been using quite a bit lately. It's an application that monitors your websites. So it's a free app for iOS. You download it and you set up, you just enter in your domains, just, like I have CaseyCoughlin.com, and you can just pile up a whole bunch of them in your little list, and it continually pings your web servers and gives you the status code, time, it takes to ping, download speed, all of that. If the status code is anything other than 200, which means okay, it will actually do a push notification to your phone saying, hey, your server's getting a 404. Well, no, it wouldn't get a 404, but, it's getting something other than an okay.
Other
There's,
than a 200.
something up with
Yeah.
your server. You might want to look into that.
Yeah.
So I have that running. Next up, I have Moves. It's literally just called Moves. It's another free app that monitors your movement. So it's kind of like a pedometer. It monitors your walking with the
That kind of
with the gyroscope that's in it. So if you have it like in your pocket while you're walking or running, it also monitors your when you're like being transported, like in the car, which is kind of silly. And so it'll say like like here at the top, I don't know if you can see it. It says how many steps you've taken, but then it also gives you like this big long timeline. And so there's like parts where you've walked, parts where you've run, parts where you've driven, and it'll say like how much or for how long. I don't know if you're interested in, fitness or anything like that, increasing, your movement, stuff like that. It's a cute, well done little app. And it's free.
Is there a Moves Pro which checks your moves while you're in a bar? How you doing? No, that move sucked.
Wow. I don't know.
I just when it says your monitors your moves, I just went, that would be funny in a bar. It'll give you moves. You come
Yeah,
here
it's
often?
got like the mic is constantly going in the background, just, picking up
Yeah.
your pickup lines. Next up, I have Any.DO. It's Any.DO. It's yet another to-do app. This is for iOS. They have an Android version, which is actually better than the iOS version. It's got more functionality. And then there's a web version that's like a Chrome add-on. So you get it from the Chrome store, and it adds on to like the little menu bar up top. But it's a really clean looking to-do app where you can add stuff today, tomorrow, or upcoming, or someday. And you can move your stuff around in the list. And then you can also add stuff via the microphone. So you can just kind of talk to it.
Nice.
And that is free as well. I think the Android version, it like does more push notification type stuff where it tells you can set like alarms for your to-dos and everything, but iOS doesn't let you do that. And then my last one is kind of a silly little game that niece of my husband's brought to my attention last week. It's called Iconmania.
Okay.
It's free on the App Store, and it literally just brings up a whole bunch of icons that you have to guess, where there's like different categories and everything. I don't know if you can see that. Like this one is TV and movies, and it's like this gun, and it gives you the spaces where the letters go and certain letters that you have to kind of guess, and you just go through that.
Looks like
It's
draw,
really
like a
just
pre-rendered draw
mindless
something.
game.
Is that like draw something? Like a pre-rendered draw something?
Yeah. It's kind of like that, where it just shows you a picture or an icon, and you have to guess it. Like there was a picture of, Batman's cowl, and, it was Batman, or little things like that. And it's just kind of like a mindless game that, you can just play while watching TV or something. And so I was playing that with my niece.
All right, mine this week, Reader. I know it's sort of a cop-out one, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody gets it because it really is an amazing app. Scrabble. Now, the reason why I brought this to light is because some friends of mine on Facebook, ironically, they started using Scrabble either in place of or along with Words with Friends. And so I did a search. I don't have it up in front of me, but I did a search for the differences between Scrabble and Words with Friends. I didn't realize this because I haven't played the Scrabble board game in so long. I had forgotten that the double word, triple word, double letter, like those special tiles, they're laid out differently in Scrabble than they are in Words with Friends. Scrabble sort of puts them in an X format, whereas Words with Friends sort of puts them in a diamond format away from the center. So that was a little different. I found that the tile chances of getting certain letters are different between the two. There are point differences between certain letters between the two. This may be a way to prevent copyright infringement from Scrabble. I don't know. I am not a lawyer, but it seemed like there were enough differences between the two. There are some minor dictionary differences, but I really only wanted to bring it to light so that people can maybe grab that if they prefer classic Scrabble rules instead of Words with Friends. I know there are some people that are purists for different reasons. So there's that.
My favorite part of this app, because I got it when it first came out years ago for iOS, is that it's got a bot in it where you can just play by yourself. So you don't have to. You can play over Facebook with your friends, or you could play, I think, just over iOS with your friends. But then you can also play with yourself with a bot, and you can determine the level, easy, medium, hard,
right?
And kind of just practice your own skills without having to wait on somebody else, to play their turn or whatever.
I'm trying to play you right now, and it says network error. Are you blocking me?
Maybe. Unintentionally, I don't know.
There seems to be a problem connecting to the network. Okay, Casey's blocking me. So,
and there's also I've just almost forgot on that Scrabble. There's also a neat little thing that if you're stuck, you can do I think it gives you 3 attempts to do best guess, and the game itself will just play a word that's the best option with what you have at that point.
Okay. Nice. And the last one I have, we were discussing this before, but it's not in our notes, and we write everything in our notes. So I'm going to bring it up anyway. My apologies if I did before. MacTracker. I've been using MacTracker on and off. I reference it maybe once or twice a year. It's an app. Well, actually, it's a website. It was originally a website that held every single piece of information about every single Apple device that has ever come out. And it's good because if you're out, again, this is why I hardly ever use it, is that if you're thinking what was that 68040 Mac that was it the 2FX or was it something else that had this, whatever it was, this specific graphics card, this will tell you. And the neat thing is that it has the startup chimes for all the different machines. So it's a neat little reference app. I don't know if it's free. It might be free, but I don't remember.
I think there's a iOS version and there's a Mac version. The Mac version on the Mac Store is, obviously more comprehensive than the iOS version. Gives you a lot more information, but I think I'm pretty sure the Mac version's free. I don't know about the iOS version, but it's fantastic for looking up stuff. They have info that even Wikipedia doesn't have. If you're looking up, say, a specific GPU for a specific, model Mac. There's everything in there.
Yeah. All right, we're done. We promise we're not going to have another 3-week gap. I think, is everything all stable? I think everything's all stable now, right? Maybe, hopefully.
Yes, everything's been nailed down. We're secure.
We're okay. So, you got your boxes.
I have many boxes. Still working through, but
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right. How does everybody get a hold of you, Kacey Kaso?
So I am Kacey Kaso, KACEYKASO, the Kacey not the cheese on Twitter. Kacey Coughlin on Google Plus. Kacey Mac on Facebook. I think that's about it. You are Star Mike on the Twitters.
Yes.
Michael Gaines on everywhere else.
Everywhere else, I guess. I think. I
We
don't know.
are
I don't use
Infinite Loop
Facebook very
TV.
often. You can email us infiniteloopshow@gmail.com, and I switched networks, so now you can find all the shows that we do on the d20network.com. It was just a name confusion thing, so I moved it all.
D20 Network. What does that mean?
That is D20. That is a die that you use in Dungeons and Dragons, and a 20 means you crit. So that means you're awesome. So that's why I keep this 20. This is the 20-sided die that I bought when I was in junior high. It's 79-ish or something like that, and so I keep this on my desk. That's where the name came from.
Fantastic. And that's d20network.com?
It's D20, the D20network.com, but I bought both. I think D20 points to the D20. So,
Right on.
All right.
And that's our new home.
That's our new home. All right. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
What do you like?
I like Max.